Welcome to the fourth part of this series on the basics of foot technique on the drums. You can watch these videos in order as they build on each other, but if you're looking for specific videos on hi-hat tips and exercises, then you've come to the right place. We'll look at where the hi-hat behaves differently than the kick drum, how we should adjust our technique. I'll give you lots of practical tips and a few interesting tweaks, what sounds we can get out of the hi-hat, and of course a few specific exercises. So you can join in directly on the drums if you want. The more you do, the more this video will bring you further. Please remember that I can only make these videos if you help me. In the description you will find two links. One to the donation box where you just simply throw in $1 or $2 via PayPal if you like the video, and one to my Patreon page where you can support me in the long term and get something back in return from me. If you don't want to or can't do that, it definitely helps if you like the video and write something in the comments, because that way you trigger the algorithm and the video will be shown to even more people. And of course, you should subscribe so that you don't miss a new video on drums, music, effective practicing, and personal development on and through the instrument. And now let's get started. So that the tips and exercises fall on fertile ground, I would first like to address a few typical mistakes. Solving these often takes you further in one fell swoop, because it's just things that you don't even have on your radar, but that's what I'm here for. Like the bass drum pedal, the hi-hat should be cleaned and lubricated regularly. So wipe all moving parts thoroughly and grease them lightly. Often it's not your technique at all, just that the pedal is rusty and hasn't been lubricated in years. Or it's the setting of the pedal. When at rest, the hi-hat should be adjusted so that the two cymbals are 1 or 2 fingers apart. Most set this distance too small. This is quite typical. The sound is then a little easier to control, but you also have fewer options. You'd better learn to regulate the spacing yourself, because the hi-hat can do a lot, which I'll show you in a moment. The path from the starting position to the stop should be the same for both pedals. So loosen the clutch, put both feet on the pedals and slowly press them down until the bass drum beater touches the head. Then tighten the screw firmly. If you lift your foot now, the upper cymbal should not hit the top with force. If it does, the spring is just set too tightly. If the cymbals barely separate, then the spring is too loose. The upper cymbal should rise quickly, but not forcefully. Maybe even swing slightly. How you set this is different for each pedal. Unfortunately, there are also some simple ones where you cannot change it at all. Another common mistake is installing the lock nuts on the clutch incorrectly. They are both above the cymbal, which is itself between two felts, and the bottom nut is screwed in all the way. Depending on where you tighten the two lock nuts against each other, you can then adjust how far the cymbal swings. It should not be tightly clamped, otherwise it will sound choked and may tear more quickly, but also not so loose that there is rattling noise when playing the pedal. Now let's really play. On the hi-hat we also have the choice of playing heel down, that is leaving the heel on the ground or the heel plate and only moving the ankle, or heel up, meaning we play from the whole leg. As with the bass drum, it makes sense to be able to do both, but with the hi-hat there is also the fact that we produce very different sounds here. If you tap the pedal only lightly, you get a soft splash sound. The cymbals hit against each other and resonate. If you press hard, you get a shorter sound, but this is quite exhausting in the long run. It's easier if you play heel up. On the bass drum, I recommended not to press the beater into the head, but rather to roll the foot over the pedal after the hit. If you play the hi-hat in the same way, the cymbals often ring a little. So here's a big difference with the bass drum. There's no rebound from the beater to exploit at the hi-hat. To get short, clear strokes, keep your ankle tight to fully transfer the weight of your leg to the pedal through the ball of your foot. Try it out. Play from your ankle with your heel resting on the ground or heel plate and see how you can produce long or short tones. Make sure that you don't lift off the pedal and smack it with the sole of your foot, which wastes energy and generates excess noise. Then try the same from your whole leg with the heel lifted. To do this, push off with your calf and immediately let your leg fall again, keeping tension in your foot. Make sure that you never lose contact with the foot plate. And then play short chick sounds, alternately heel down and heel up. 4 times like this and 4 times like this. This will give you a good feel for how your pedal is responding. If it's too strenuous, take a break and shake out your leg every now and then. This is typical for unfamiliar movements, even if they're actually not particularly difficult. Your muscles are not yet used to this, so they work in an inefficient way, and that is exhausting. Also, maybe you're sitting too close or too far away. Your knee should be no further forward than the ball of your foot when viewed from above, but also no further back than your heel. If you're playing heel down, the distance can be a little further because the ankle can then move more freely and relaxed. If you have your heel raised consistently, you can sit a little bit closer. I personally use both techniques depending on the sound I want to create. I would also recommend that you practice both variants for a few days so that you're able to exploit all the possibilities of the hi-hat. Those were the basic movements for the hi-hat pedal. The big differences to the bass drum technique are that we have to play both heel up and heel down with a little more emphasis and a little more tension for short, clear tones, that we get a very different sound if we tap the pedal lightly, and that it behaves slightly differently because the pedal cannot swing back over the apex like the kick drum pedal. This also means that my foot position is a bit different. I usually play the hi-hat pedal a little further forward than the bass drum. Try different positions here as well. The more you deal with your instrument and get to know the possibilities, the better. Before I show you some great tricks and special techniques in the next part, let's look at something else for a moment. Playing the hi-hat with the foot is an important and often neglected option, but in fact, we do play it mostly with the hand, and the foot adjusts how far the cymbals are apart. What's the best way to do this? Here too, try it out. You should also do this in context, since balance plays a major role here. So play a simple groove on the hi-hat, hold it tightly closed, and then open it fully and slowly close it over the course of several bars. Do this a few times in the heel down variant and a few times from the whole leg, preferably even alternating. You'll find that heel up takes a lot more effort and you might even lose your balance or play the bass drum improperly, but heel down, it takes more effort to hold the hi-hat tightly closed for a short sound with the stick. Again, it's personal preference, but as a general rule, if you want a short note, keep your foot planted so the weight of your leg squeezes the cymbals shut with the heel in the air. And when you play the hi-hat open, you put your heel down and use your ankle to adjust how open the cymbals are. If only because you can keep your balance better then. Only when I know that I open the hi-hat only briefly and close it again immediately do I open it from the whole leg. Also try switching directly between this. Play one bar open, one bar closed. When the cymbals are open, let the heel rest and lift the toes slightly. On the next measure, you roll forward and push your knee up. Do this exactly at the same time or a millisecond before hitting with the stick on the 1. You can also graduate this. It makes a big difference whether the cymbals are completely open, whether there is only 2 millimeters of space, or whether the cymbals are just loosely on top of each other so that they rub slightly. Even if you don't play anything else, you still have a lot of possibilities to make a groove sound different, just with the spacing of the hi-hat cymbals. On many albums I've played on, you'll hear that I use this very consciously and choose for each song, and even part of a song, whether I play the hi-hat fully open, slightly open, fully closed or slightly closed. Another important question is, does the hi-hat remain open or closed when it's not played? That depends. When I know I won't be playing it for a while, I let my foot rest loosely and the hi-hat stays half open. But sometimes I want a certain basic tension in my body, and so I support myself on the pedal and press it firmly. Also so that it doesn't accidentally make unwanted sounds. Everything I've shown you now should be tried out for a few days or even weeks. You can always come back to this video and use it for reference or comparison. Always use a mirror or film yourself to correct your technique and posture. Speaking of reference, if you happen to be looking for a basic course to help guide your learning process, check out the Drum Quest series, a series of books I've been working on with several colleagues. The first 4 volumes are already available, and just like with this series, you can work through them from the start, but you can also jump right in and skip the first 1 or 2 if you are an intermediate player. You can find the link to the books in the description. Now, in the next part, we're going to build on what we've just learned and look at some great ways you can get even more cool sounds and effects out of the hi-hat, because it can do a lot more than you might think. I also show you some great exercises for independence and balance, which is very important here. You can also find the link to the entire playlist with all the videos in the description. So, see you in the next part, take care and bye bye.